and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh, and in this video we shall discuss the Gazette for 26th August 2021, your daily guide to UPSC current affairs. Now, the hot selling articles in the market today are 1. The news snapshot on movement of women from informal sector to the formal sector and vice versa in the last decade, and also providing reasons for the same. So an important update. The second one is on Forum for Decarbonizing Transport in India, presented by Niti Aayog. The third snapshot is on EASE 4.0. This is on public sector bank reforms in the country. This day in history we have dedicated to Mother Teresa. We will know why. Featured news. We have presented featured news in a separate video, and rest of the Gazette discussion will be a separate video. So we have two videos on the Gazette discussion. Now, featured news on the day is on solid waste management. This is in context to an important landfill site, Bhalswa, which had an aversion of an important accident in the site. And therefore, in this context, we will understand what are the ways of solid waste management in the country at present, and what is the ideal way solid waste management should happen in an urban setup. And in this context, we will also understand what are the hindrances in ensuring that India does not participate in these ideal ways, right? So this is the featured news for the day. Image of the day is on Atlas. What is Atlas? Atlas is a comet. Terms and concepts for the day are 1. Samarth Udyog Bharat, E-Shram Portal, Global Manufacturing Risk Index, which has also rated India, and the fourth is Predator Drone Deal, which is between India and USA. Editorials of the day. The three editorials that we cover today are 1 on the climate policy and the climate justice that India is talking of. The second one is by Justice B.N. Sri Krishna, and he talks of how efficient justice delivery during these times is very important. The third one is on iron fortification of rice, and the article criticizes this policy of the government. Case study of the day is on climate sensitization of the children via education. So let's start the discussion. We all know who is this lady in this picture. She is Mother Teresa. She is the one who dedicated her life to humanitarian aid in India, and that is the reason that she got Nobel Peace Prize. And this is why we have dedicated this day in history to her, because it is her birthday on August 26, 1910. This is the year when she was born. She was born in the Republic of Macedonia, and the organization that she created to work for humanitarian aid in India is called as Missionaries of Charity. The first snapshot is on an important article related to women development. Women have moved from informal sector to formal sector as much as 20% in capacity, and 10% women have moved from formal sector back to informal sector in the last decade. So the research was carried out between the period of 2010 and 2019, right? During this period, there were a lot of revelations that were found by the Institute for Human Development. They carried out this case study in around 1500 women, and they tested the same questions on the same women at the year of 2019. So what were the findings of the survey? The first finding, as I mentioned, was the movement of women. Many women moved from informal sector to the formal sector, and this is a great advantage for the country. They moved largely from sectors like construction, labor, domestic work, vending machines, etc., to sales workers, tuition people, teaching, beautician, and helper or assistant in the office factories. Now, getting into a formal sector is a lot of advantage for the females. Why? Because getting into formal sector, they will get important benefits like maternity benefit. They will get benefits of social security, right? They will be also treatment of POSH, so Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplaces Act. These are the ones benefits that they start to get. And not only that, the article also mentions what are the important changes that happened. The second one relates to the reasons, to the reasons how people move from this informal sector to the formal sector. So one of the important reason is educational experience, and the second one is experience in the particular domain, which helped them move from the informal sector to the formal sector. Also, many of the people who moved belong to higher income groups, belong to upper caste, and they were non-immigrants in that particular region, right? Also, the people who moved from the formal setup to informal setup, or the people who are already established in the informal setup, they face a lot of challenges. The challenges that they face are mentioned right here. For example, long working hours, lack of safety, lack of welfare schemes, the credible facility, the credit facility at the place, and the working conditions. So they have long working hours, right? They might face sexual harassment, and there's no remedy for all these issues, right? So the study recommends certain important changes. For example, creating a national database of informal workers, and we will study that e-shram today itself in terms, right? Also linking this database to trying to give them welfare, right? So we will study this component today itself in the terms, right? Another one, providing workspace for these kind of people in informal setup so that harassment can be avoided. Not only that, domestic workers can also be recognized. So recognizing all the workers through national database. They must be given skill training so that if they receive more experience, they will also switch to the formal sector. So these are the important recommendations provided by the report. Now, the most important part for you is not only to listen to this article, but to ingrain it. How can you ingrain it? Because this was an analysis of the report, what you got to do is embed the important keywords in your mind through writing them on a piece of paper, because this is how you'll be able to present a logical presentation in your answers. Not only in your answers, also in your case studies, in your essays. So this is how this becomes relevant to you. Otherwise, if you don't do so, in due time, you might even forget what we taught or what you learned, right? Because we do not have got a superhuman brain. We have got a brain that forgets after a few days. And through experience, I'm sharing with you, it is important for you to note certain keywords of this study, right? And therefore, this is how you will be able to spend this time productively. So what you can do is, if this is a 20-25 minute video, you can pause the video, write for 30 seconds, and then move ahead to the next article. The second snapshot is on Forum for Decarbonizing the Transport in India. This has been presented by Niti Aayog along with World Resource Institute. Now, this forum is a multi-stakeholder body which will hold policy discussions among all the stakeholders to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions in the transport sector in the country, right? So Forum for Decarbonizing the Transport Sector in India. The most important thing to understand here is India has got a huge amount of emission in the transport sector itself. So 1/3 of the carbon dioxide produced is in the transport sector. And out of that, you'll be surprised to know that 90% of it is contributed by the roads. By the roads itself. So 90% of the total CO2 emission is on the roads, and therefore the focus is on electric mobility. And therefore I must remind you the important schemes the government has. So the scheme is FAME. It is the faster adoption of the hybrid and electric vehicles in the country. Also, we have got a production link incentive scheme. If the private bodies are producing those kind of gadgets, those kind of devices which have electric mobility, and they're exporting it, the government will give them certain kind of incentives, right? We have also developed schemes around fuel efficiency, where we talk of fuel which are ethanol blended. We have covered an editorial. We have also covered a featured news on ethanol blending again, right? We have also spoken about advanced cell chemistry battery. We have spoken about this in one of the snapshots. So fuel efficiency is another program which the government has focused on. So these are the ways in which the government is trying to initiate cleaner transport mechanisms. Now, in this organization, Forum for Decarbonizing Transport, is it an international body or a national body? It is an international body in which countries like China, Vietnam, and India all are involved, right? So it is an international body, and the prime agenda is to have nationally determined contributions. So remember, INDC's intended nationally determined contributions, right, for reducing the emissions. So this is one of the ways in which the governments are trying to reduce the carbon flow in the economy, right? The idea is to shift to zero emissions. The third snapshot for today is EASE 4.0. What is EASE? EASE stands for Enhanced Access and Service Excellence. In what sector? In the public sector, bank sector. Now, this is a plan for reformation of the public sector banks to enable them to have technology, to enable them to have simplified and collaborative banking. Now, what is the mechanism used? The mechanism used is such that there will be a smart lending process for each of us. So if we want to get some money from the bank, there'll be a smart lending process where we dial and we get the loan, right? We dial a number and we get the loan. This is one of it, right? The second one relates to agricultural financing. This will also become easier, where the whole process of lending will become automated. Not only that, the idea is to make the banking 24/7 available for people, right? So cloud-based computing and cyber resilience will be used in this particular segment. Also, to have a financial ecosystem which is at par with the urban economy, not only urban but peri-urban and rural and semi-urban economy as well. So this is the basic agenda of this particular reform, right? Ease reform 4.0. We have had ease reforms in the past as well. The past ease reforms aimed at certain important components like reducing the non-performing assets, reducing the NPAs, also to have the reform journey in a continued process, right? And the third one was regarding technology enablement of the banks, and this fourth one also talks about increased production of services through online mechanisms. Image of the day, right behind you, you see Atlas. What is Atlas? Atlas is a comet. What is a comet? Comet is a revolving celestial body, a body which is revolving around the sun, and this body is a conglomeration of solid dust and ice particles. Now this was observed by Hubble telescope, the breaking of this comet, right? Now important to note is that the scientists have said that this faction of this comet which actually broke was part of a bigger comet which had broken previously. So this is one important fact regarding Atlas. The first term in news is Samarth Udyog Bharat 4.0. Samarth stands for Smart Advanced Manufacturing and Rapid Transformation Hub. The name itself suggests we are talking about manufacturing sector. What sector in specific? We are talking about the heavy industry and public enterprises, right? So the main idea is to ensure that 4.0 industrial revolution affects the manufacturing process. How should it affect? 4.0 industrial revolution is about Internet of Things. It is about automation. It is about cyber physical capacities, right? So therefore, the main idea is to have this capital good industry, have this process of automation, the Internet of Things be enabled in capital good industry. And this is how we will make our products more competitive in the external sector. So this is the main agenda. Why news? Because Central Manufacturing Technology Institute organized a webinar on Samarth Udyog Bharat. Second term in news is e-Shram portal. This is in context of the Supreme Court nudge to the government to ensure that there be a database for unorganized workers. And this time, Ministry of Labour and Employment has come into action. Now, this e-database called as e-Shram will be able to have the database for the Shram Yogis. Who are the Shram Yogis? Shram Yogis are the unorganized workforce of India who are participating in construction, domestic, migrant workers, agriculture workers, and all other sectors like gig and platform workers. Also, the street vendors. Now, you will not be asking me what are platform workers, because we have covered the platform economy in detail. We have covered this in one of the featured articles. All you got to type is platform economy Edukemy on Google and you will be able to find an article on the same, right? If you keep watching the Gazette videos, we will keep covering these sometime or the other. So we have already covered platform economy. We'll cover it sometime or the other again. Now, the workers, if they register on this website, they will be getting a 12-digit code, a 12-digit unique code. And this is the code through which they will be also given various services of the government. So freebies of the government and various services for the marginalized sections, they will be distributed once they register through this national database portal. The third term in news is Global Manufacturing Risk Index 2021. Why is it in news? It is in news because India has gained second position in this index. Now, this index is about the most advantageous locations for setting up manufacturing in Asia Pacific and America's region. Earlier, America was occupying the second position, but India now is at the second position. The only country before India is China. Now, important factors on which this is rated are these four factors: country's capability to restart manufacturing. The second one is business environment in the country. That means availability of talent, labor, and market. The third one is operating cost, and the fourth one is risk associated. Now, India has gone above America basically because of 2-3 factors. One was operating cost. The operating cost in a country is less than many other countries, especially America, right? Because the cost of land, the cost of labor, the cost of working there is more. Also, business environment has become more friendly in the country. We have seen that there is availability of talent, we have availability of labor, and we have access to market as well in our country. Not only that, there are various industries which are shifting from various other countries to India, and this is what has given India this second position in this particular ranking. So do remember Global Manufacturing Risk Index 2021. Right behind me, you see a drone, fighter plane sized drone. This drone is called as a Predator drone and it is being constructed. It is being made by USA. India is ought to purchase this drone. But this deal is struck because India wants more detailing about price. India wants more detail about maintenance and how America is going to transfer the technology of this drone. Now, the most important and the third component that I want to elaborate on is the transfer of technology. When India used to take weapons from Russia, from erstwhile USSR, the important issues were that India would be able to purchase these important gadgets. For example, helicopters, fighter planes, right? But what about the transfer of technology? So during those times, the maintenance of these gadgets would be carried out by USSR itself. So even if a small nut of the fighter plane goes haywire, if it breaks, Russia would be replacing it. USSR would be replacing it. India will not have those capabilities, and they would charge humongous amounts to replace even small component or even maintain to help in maintenance of that particular entity, because without that entity, because without that bolt and nut, the aircraft may not even run, right? And therefore these costs like maintenance cost and transfer technology, these were important ways in which India sought to have future agreements, and that is why India is requiring to have this kind of maintenance and transfer of technology in those drones. Now, coming back to this drone, the Predator drone, important technology in this is that it has flight up to 40 hours. It can fly up to 40 hours, and since it is a fighter sized drone, that means a very, very huge drone, it is also called as hunter killer drone, right? So it has long range precision strikes. It can fly for a lot of time and it can have precision targets for a very long distance as well. Coming to the editorials, the first one is on how India is negotiating the global climate policy deal. It is a very good article to understand the perspective of a country like India. The editorial starts by saying that net zero is not the way to go. Cumulative emission is the way to go, because if a country achieves net zero, it is still not effective unless and until the whole world cumulatively achieves net zero status. It also says, the editorial says that G7 economies are saying that they will achieve net zero by 2050, whereas India, a country like India, says no, this is not the way to go. You got to achieve per capita emission reduction, right? Per capita emission reduction to the global standards, right? So there are certain countries which are emitting a lot of emissions which are far higher than the global standards. So the editorial presents this analysis. World average is 6.55 tons per capita, per person, right? And India is hardly 2 tons, right? 2 tons of carbon dioxide emission. And therefore, this is not even one third of the global average. Whereas countries like USA, Canada, and Australia, they have greater than 2.5 times the world average. So what, even if they achieve net zero by 2050, they must be reducing their per capita emission. This is what India speaks of. Now, India may be the country which is the third maximum emitter of greenhouse gases, of global warming. However, India's per capita emission is far below the global average, and therefore India is a country which can actually increase its per capita emission, right? The countries like Germany, UK, France, they also have far more emission as compared to the per capita emission. And talking about China, China is almost at the average level, right? And therefore the analysis says that North America and Europe, these two continents contribute to 25% people. However, the emissions, you know how much they are? They are 60% emissions from just these two continents, and therefore there must be reduction in per capita emission from the developed countries, right? Two important sectors, steel and cement, these are the sectors which have seen emissions up to 25% in lieu of development, because there is no alternative to the carbon steel, there's no alternative to carbon cement as of now which is viable, and therefore these are sectors which are actually growth oriented, and India needs to participate in these two sectors, right? The editorial says that India demands climate justice. Climate justice not only in terms of how much you are reducing. Climate justice should also be calculated in terms of the cause of emission. If the people are shifting to from rural to urban economy, this is something that is inevitable. This will happen, and therefore per capita emission is something that should be seen in this respect, right? Now the singular burden of a singular economy that had shifted to global burden in the times of climate change, and the common rules which are adopted till now must must become common goals for all the humanity together, right? The article also says that now the consumption of the middle class around the world is growing, and this is where a mindset change must be done, a transformational mindset also in a country like India, right? Also countries all around should have shared prosperity. For example, utilizing the solar energy together, for example, yielding new crop varieties and doing research and development together. And this is where the environmental concern can actually become a civilizational transformation. The second editorial, written by Justice B.N. Sri Krishna, talks about helping and hindering justice in the times of technology. Supreme Court had earlier pointed out that CoWIN portal is something that is not inclusive because there are issues of digital literacy. People are not aware about how to register for vaccination on COVID portal. There is inadequate digital penetration. There are a lot of places where there is no network to be able to register on this portal, and there is low bandwidth at the places where there is network in rural and peri-urban areas, and therefore this is not an inclusive portal. And after that, the government changed the CoWIN strategy by ensuring that registration not be mandatory for taking the vaccination. And this is how the editorial written by Justice B.N. Sri Krishna points that e-courts are under the same effect of automation. Now, in 2007, e-courts was introduced, and the idea was to ensure that e-filing of cases be done and artificial intelligence-based referencing be done by the Supreme Court and other courts. However, during the times of pandemic, the cases pending have gone to all-time high. The district courts and high courts average 20% rise in the pendency of the cases has happened in these times. How has it happened? The article points that there are issues related to video conferencing in criminal cases. The people, even the advocates, they are not accustomed to using the mobile kind of justice mechanism in small cities because they are devoid of digital literacy, right? Also, there is mobile phone with people but no internet in some areas. So there are pendency and there are issues. Just like CoWIN portal has issues, the court is also managing these kind of issues in technology. The article also points to vacancy of the number of judges. High courts at these times are going through a vacancy of 38%. What a humongous number. And for the lower courts, it is 22%, right? So therefore, the idea the article presents, the wisdom it presents, is that if planning and safeguards are adequately measured, therefore the technology tools can actually become a game changer in the respect of the court system as well. The third editorial is on iron fortified rice. It criticizes this particular scheme which was declared by the Prime Minister. The editorial starts by saying that a scheme which was declared by the Prime Minister for mandatory rice fortification, that scheme is inefficient in certain ways. The scheme was to ensure that anemia be reduced among Indians by introduction of rice, iron fortification in rice in the country. However, the article criticizes the same. It says that we have got inflated prevalence of anemia in the country. So acute and chronic anemia present in children and women in India is inflated because these are WHO standards and they are far too high. This is what the experts say. Also, the measuring tool that we use to judge how much anemic a person in India is, this measuring tool also gives an inflated figure because the whole algorithm is different than what is standard. The third one is the estimation of iron gap. Estimation of iron gap is the amount of iron a person has and the amount of iron that person ideally should have, and this gap estimation is also high, and therefore this scheme itself is flawed because the level of anemia that people have is not as accentuated, as bad as it is called out for. Now, also the iron anemia relationship, this is what editorial talks about. It says that most of the anemia is not caused because of deficiency of iron. It is also caused because of deficiency of protein and other minerals which are not taken in. So if you fortify rice with iron, it is not going to produce the right effect. It may not. So this is one logic. The editorial says that yes, we are trying to ensure that through this kind of food fortification, there will be no behavioral change in the humans. Why? Because Indian will keep intaking this rice and they will not be compelled to eat a different kind of diet, right? Now, they also say that this iron intake can actually be toxic. Why? Because if a malnourished person is not eating, this kind of iron, and the system, the body, the digestive system is not absorbing this iron, this will become toxic in the body. It will get stored in the body somewhere and it will become toxic, and this will be an issue for the human health, right? Also, it is a costly affair for the government. The government will have to spend humongous amount to be able to fortify this kind of rice with iron. Another issue that they say is of the kernel. Now, kernel is the grain, is the soft part of the grain that is eaten. Now, this kernel, which is artificially created to fortify this rice, this will have to be of the same, exactly same pattern in taste, in variety, in color as that of the rice grain. Because if it is different in taste, or if it is different in looks, then people will throw it out while they are taking out the rice particles when they boil the rice. So this is another important issue, right? Now, this will also reduce the demand of so many varieties of the natural rice that India produces. So this artificial rice, this rice fortification may not be successful when we compare it to the natural rice production in the country, right? The wisdom lies, the article says, in complementing the diet, in diversifying the diet with fruits and vegetables, which will increase the amount of nutrition that humans take in India, and this will also reduce the amount of anemia that India has at present. The case study of the day is from West Bengal. It is on climate sensitization of the young children through the medium of education. Now, this Swapnapuran Siksha Niketan, what it is doing is that it is sensitizing the young minds. How is it doing? It is doing by making them aware of the present situations, right? So the heart of the program is at making them aware. A simple act, for example, if they eat chocolate and they throw the wrapper on the ground, they becoming aware of the process, of the hazards of throwing a plastic on the ground. This makes them give them the ownership of their own act. And making them aware will let them know that this earth is there, this land is there, and they must keep them, they must preserve it, right? So therefore, this is how they will understand what this problem is, and they will themselves generate the solution to this problem. How did it happen? Through awareness and ownership, and then problem solving approach. And this approach is a very good approach to be able to train young minds to become responsible citizens, to ensure that there is sustainable development in the economy. You know why? Because these are the young individuals which will develop themselves into full carrying capacity human resources for the country. And this is what you and I presently are. If you like this initiative, if you appreciate our efforts, shower some love on us through likes, comments, and shares. If you subscribe to this channel, you will receive timely updates. Thanks for watching.